Okay, so today's learning target is that I can solve basic word problems using systems of equations. Okay, so how do I tell something is a system? Well, if I'm looking at a word problem and it has mention of more than one variable, then it is more than likely that you'll have to set up a system. So in this first problem, I says the sum of two numbers. Well, it doesn't tell you what those two numbers are. That means you have two variables, right? I've got two numbers. X will be the first number, and y will be the second number. Okay, so we don't know what they are, we got to find them, but it says the sum of those two numbers is 18 and their difference is 12. Find each of the numbers. Well, okay. The first thing I need to do is we'll figure out what I need to do with those two numbers. So if they sum to 18, well, sum is addition. So I'm going to take the two numbers and add them together. Okay, so that's this whole statement right here is x plus y equals 18. Okay, so that's this. Okay, and then the second part of that statement says that the difference is 12. Okay, so that means that if I take those two numbers and I subtract them, because difference is subtraction, I'm going to get 12. Okay, now I have a system of equations with two variables, right? So I have to decide, how am I going to solve this system? Well, it's not really plausible to graph it because first of all, you don't have any graph paper, and second of all, it's just a waste of time because this is easy enough to solve using one of the two methods we discussed previously. So we have substitution or elimination are our options. Well, think about the first step of elimination. You have to check to see if the equations are in standard form. Well, both of these are x, y, and a number. X, y, and a number. So I just want to check and see if I've got a pair of opposite terms to make this even easier. Well, my x's are both positive, even though they both have a 1 out in front, and one of my y's is positive and the other one's negative, and they both have a 1 out in front. So there's my opposite terms. So I can go ahead and skip to the third step of elimination, which is add the two together. The y's are going to cancel out because it's y plus negative y. That makes 0. Then I add the two x's together. That makes 2x. And then I add the two numbers together. Equals 30. Okay, and then all I have to do is solve for x. Divide both by 2. So x is equal to 15. And now, to find y, all I have to do is plug it back in. So the final step is to solve for y by plugging the 15 back in. Okay, so if I plug in 15 for x, I get 15 plus y equals 18. Just subtract 15 from both sides, and y is equal to 3. Okay, so those are my two numbers, 3 and 15. And I can do a quick check. If I add those together, I'm going to get 18, and if I subtract them, I'm going to get 12. So we're good. All right. Second problem is perimeter problem. It says the perimeter of a rectangle is 32 centimeters. The length is 1 centimeter more than twice the width. Find the dimensions of the rectangle. Okay, so first of all, let's look at what a perimeter is of a rectangle. So if I draw this picture, if I've got a length, L, it's a rectangle, it's got to have the same length on opposite sides and the same width on opposite sides. So if I add all of those together, I'm going to get L plus L plus W equals perimeter. Okay, well, I've got like terms here, so I can combine them. L plus L is 2L, and W plus W is 2W. Okay, and that's equal to perimeter. Well, they told me that the perimeter is 32, so this part of my problem, I can write an equation for it. 2L plus 2W equals 32. So the perimeter P is equal to 32. All right. Now, it says that the length is 1 centimeter more than twice the width. So this is kind of a backwards problem. First of all, it's telling me that my length L is, that's equal to, 1 centimeter more than twice the width. Okay, so if I take twice the width and add 1 to it, because twice the width I can replace with 2 times W, it says 1 more than that. So adding 2 plus, so this is going to go backwards, 2w plus 1 is equal to L. So my second equation is 2w plus 1 equals my length. Or the other way around, doesn't really matter. But now I've got a system. I've got two equations with two separate variables, w and L. And I have to decide which is going to be easier to solve this, substitution or elimination. Well, in this case, it's got a variable equal to another thing. So it's got L is equal to 2w plus 1, and neither of or only this one is in standard form, but the other one isn't. So it's not as easy to use elimination on this one as it is to use substitution. So I'm going to take my L equals 2w plus 1 and substitute that in for the L in the second equation. So I'm going to take my red and replace it. So I've got the 2w, so 2L, and remember I'm replacing L with this red L. So I'm going to replace it with everything in here. So 2 times 2w plus 1, because this L is replacing this L, right? L is equal to 2w plus 1, so I can replace that entire thing. Okay, so plus 2w equals 32. So here's my substitution, and now all I have to do is do what we've done since the beginning of the semester and solve for w. Okay, so 2 times 2w is 4w. 2 times 1 is 2. Plus 2w equals 32. I need to combine like terms. 4w plus 2w plus 2w. These two can combine to be 6w. Subtract the 2. Subtract the 2. 6w is equal to 30. So if I divide both sides by 6, w is equal to 5. Should have done that down here, sorry. So w is equal to 5. Now I'm going to take that w and replace it up here in the L equation. So I'm going to solve for L using substitution again. Okay, so I've got the 2. My w is equal to 5. I'm going to replace that with 5 and then solve for L. Well, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is equal to L, so L is equal to 11. So my length is 11, and width is 5. And since it's in centimeters, I need to include those units. Alright. Now the last problem is a little bit more complicated. Okay, so it says Mr. Singish decided to purchase a bag of M&Ms and Hershey bars for all of his students. Each bag of M&Ms cost $3, while each Hershey bar cost $2. He ended up spending $16 on his purchase of 6 items. How many bags of each did he buy? Alright, so the first thing you do for this type of problem is define your variables. Well, I have two, right? I'm talking about M&M bags and Hershey bars. The last part of the question will tell me what it is my variables are. How many bags of each did he buy? So I'm going to label my X as bags of M&Ms. And my Y is going to be Hershey bars. Hey, so it says write a system of equations to model the above situation. So I've got two things going on here. Each bag costs $3, or each bag of M&Ms costs $3. So I'm going to replace M&M bags with X, and costing $3 means I'm going to spend $3 each. So that implies multiplication. So it's X times 3. And each of my bags of Hershey's is going to cost $2. So I'm going to replace the Hershey bar with Y, and those cost $2 each. So I'm going to multiply by 2. Okay, so that's part of it. And then it says I ended up spending $16 on my whole purchase. So I bought this and this. So when I say and, I bought those two things together, the total cost, I'm going to have to add it up. Okay, so my first equation, I spent $3 per bag of M&Ms, and I'm going to add to that $2 per bag of Hershey's. And I'm going to be spending a total of $16. Okay, so in order to get my second equation, I'm going to have to look at this piece right here. I purchased 6 total items. Well, if X is the number of M&M bags and Y is the number of Hershey bags, if I purchase 6 total items, I'm going to add those two things together, and they better not be more than 6 or less than 6, because that's how much I spent, or how much I got, right? So now I've got my system. 3x plus 2y is equal to 16. And then these two added together, x plus y is equal to 6, right? The total number of bags and the total number I spent. I've got a system of equations with two variables, x and y, and now I need to solve it. Well, this first question asks me how many bags of M&Ms did I purchase? Well, M&M bags is x, so I'm going to solve this system for x. Okay, so I've got it in standard form. So that's the first checkbox for linear combination or elimination. So that's what I'm going to use, right? So now I need to check for a pair of opposite terms. Well, I'm solving for x, so if I want to get my x, that means I want to eliminate my y. Therefore, I'm going to try to make y opposite terms. Right now, they're both positive, so I'm going to have to multiply one of these equations by a negative, right? I'm going to choose the bottom one. Okay, and the numbers are different. So to make this y match this y, I need to multiply it by 2, since there's a 1 out in front. So not only do I have to make it negative, but I have to make it a 2. So I'm going to distribute my negative 2. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the first equation. 3x plus 2y is equal to 16. And now I'm going to distribute this negative 2. Okay, so I get negative 2x minus 2y is equal to negative 6. Now I've got my pair of opposite terms. I'm going to add these two together. 3x minus 2y is 1x. 2x minus 2y is 0, so that cancels out. And then, I did forget, multiply negative 6. My mistake here was that I forgot to multiply negative 2 times negative 6. So this is actually not negative 6, but negative 12. It's always good to error check as you're going through these. So that should be negative 12. Okay, and so I've got 16 minus 12 now, and that means that x is equal to 4. Okay, so my x, bag of M&Ms, I bought 4 of them. Okay, okay. So now that I've got my 4 bags of M&Ms, the last thing it's going to ask me is how many Hershey bars did I purchase? Well, I can keep all of this same work, okay, and I'm only going to be using, however, the x, right? I'm going to take all this away, because I've already used all that, and this part 2, I'm going to keep my x is equal to 4 bags, because that's what I need, right? And I'm going to pick one of these two equations to plug that into, and I like x plus y equals 6 better because it's a lot easier to work with. Okay, so I'm going to keep my x plus y equals 6 in order to figure out how many Hershey bars I purchased. Okay, so I'm going to plug in that x equals 4. So I got 4 plus y is equal to 6. Then I'm going to subtract the 4 from both sides. So y is equal to 2. So we got 2 bags of Hershey's. And 4 bags of M&Ms. Alright, so be ready to work on problems like this for the next couple days in class. Have a good night.